Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's caught on camera, it's what keeps happening when the camera is off. It began quietly, the way most terrifying stories do. Daniel and Emma Collins had been married for a little over a year when they found the house on Maple Street. It wasn't perfect, but it was available, cheap, and just a short drive from Emma's school. Daniel, who worked in IT and often from home, liked the idea of a quiet suburb after years of city noise. The house had character. At least, that's what the landlord said. A two-story home with peeling white paint, wide porch steps, and an old oak tree leaning a little too close to the upstairs window. The floors were original hardwood and the basement smelled faintly of dust and paint thinner. Emma loved it right away. "It feels like a real home," she said, smiling as sunlight poured through the kitchen window. Daniel smiled too, though something about the silence bothered him. The house was too quiet. No traffic, no children playing, no barking dogs. Even the birds outside sounded distant. They moved in on a Sunday. By Tuesday night, most of the boxes were unpacked. Daniel set up his workstation in the small spare room, and Emma began decorating. Family photos, flower vases, a few candles on the mantel. On Thursday evening, they shared a bottle of wine on the couch. "This is good for us," Emma said. "Fresh start. No more stress, no more noise." Daniel laughed softly. "Except for the floors. Every step sounds like a scream." The house did creak, especially at night. But the landlord, Mr. Holloway, had warned them. "It's old wood. Expands, contracts, complains. Don't let it scare you." It was 3:11 a.m. when Daniel first woke to the sound. He rolled over, half awake, thinking it was rain. But the night was still. Moonlight glowed faintly through the curtains. Then came a creak, slow and heavy from directly above their bed. Daniel froze. The sound repeated, creak, creak, creak. Footsteps, soft and deliberate. But there was no one upstairs. They slept in the only room on the second floor. He sat up, straining his ears. The sound moved across the ceiling as if someone was pacing right above them, then stopped suddenly. Beside him, Emma stirred. "Dan, what are you doing?" she murmured. "Listen," he whispered. They both waited. The silence stretched, thick and endless. Then, creak, Emma frowned. "Probably the pipes," she muttered, turning over. "This house is old." Daniel lay back down, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince himself she was right. But he couldn't shake the feeling that those weren't pipes. Pipes didn't walk. The next morning, while Emma left for work, Daniel decided to look around. The sound had come from above their bedroom, but he remembered there was no attic door in the room itself. He searched the hallway and soon noticed a square outline in the ceiling. A small, pull-down hatch with a bit of string dangling from it. He hadn't seen it before. When he pulled the cord, a section of the ceiling dropped slightly, revealing a narrow wooden ladder folded inside. Cold dust fell over his hand. He hesitated. "Just storage," he muttered to himself, trying to sound casual. But he didn't climb up, not yet. He pushed the hatch closed again and went back downstairs. That afternoon, while testing the Wi-Fi router in the living room, Daniel heard something faint above him, like something being dragged slowly across the floorboards upstairs. He went up immediately, heart pounding, but the hallway was empty. He checked every room, including the small guest room at the end. Nothing. Just sunlight through dusty curtains and the faint smell of old wood. Still, he couldn't shake the sound. When Emma came home, he told her, "You're scaring yourself," she said gently, setting down her bag. "You've been home alone all day. Houses make noises, especially ones built before the 80s. He nodded, trying to smile. "Yeah, probably that." That night, they watched a movie before bed, but the house felt different now. Daniel noticed shadows move when nothing else did. And once, during a quiet scene, the floor creaked softly. Just once. Like someone shifting their weight nearby. On the fifth night, Daniel decided to record. Not because he truly believed anything was wrong, but because he wanted proof that nothing was. He set up his phone on the dresser, angled toward the bed and door, and pressed record before turning off the light. Emma laughed sleepily. "You're ridiculous. Humor me," he whispered. The night passed quietly. He woke once around 3:00 a.m., glanced at the phone's red recording light, and drifted back to sleep. In the morning, as Emma made coffee, Daniel checked the footage. For the first 3 hours, it was silent, just the two of them sleeping. The faint hum of the ceiling fan. Then, at 3:12 a.m., the image shifted. The camera trembled, just slightly, like it had been nudged. Daniel frowned, rewinding. It happened again, a soft tilt, then something even stranger. The faint outline of a shadow across the wall, moving from left to right. Though the curtains were closed and the moonlight constant, he turned up the volume, leaning closer. At 3:13, there was a whisper. He played it 3 times before realizing what it said. It was Emma's voice, whispering something unintelligible, maybe a few words, but the problem was, she had been asleep beside him. That evening, he showed Emma the video. She watched silently, her expression unreadable. "That's weird," she admitted. "Maybe it's just a sound overlay or something." "You know how phones glitch sometimes." Daniel nodded, though his stomach twisted. "Maybe, yeah." But later, as she brushed her teeth, she noticed something in the mirror, a faint bruise on the side of her neck. "Dan," she called softly. Did you see this before?" He came over. The mark was small, round like a fingertip. "I don't remember that," he said. She laughed nervously. "Guess I scratched myself in my sleep." But when they lay down that night, Daniel couldn't stop staring at the ceiling, listening for every shift in the wood. The sound didn't come again that night, not until 3 nights later. It was always the same time, 3:11 a.m. This time, it began with a single thump, like a footstep right above their bed. Daniel's eyes snapped open. He grabbed his phone from the nightstand and opened the camera, holding it up toward the ceiling. "Dan, stop," Emma mumbled. "Shh," he whispered. Another step, then another. He turned on the flashlight and pointed it upward. The sound stopped instantly. The silence that followed was worse, like the air itself was holding its breath. He sat there, heart hammering, until morning light crept through the blinds. When he checked the hallway the next day, something caught his eye. The attic hatch was slightly open, only an inch. That afternoon, Daniel called Mr. Holloway, the landlord. "Hey, sorry to bother you," he began, trying to sound casual. "Do you know if anyone's ever used the attic, like storage or something?" There was a pause on the other end. "I don't think so," Holloway said slowly. "That house has been rented out a few times, but no one mentioned the attic before." "Why do you ask?" Daniel hesitated. "Just wondering." "I thought I heard," Holloway interrupted. "Oh, right. You might hear things up there. The insulation's old. Probably squirrels or raccoons." Daniel almost believed him. Almost. But that night, when he and Emma lay in bed, and the footsteps began again, soft, pacing, steady, he realized something. The steps didn't sound like animals. They sounded like someone walking barefoot. The following morning, Daniel couldn't concentrate on work. Every creak from the floor above made his stomach tighten. The thought of that hatch, slightly open, haunted him. At noon, he fetched the ladder from the garage, dragged it into the hallway, and climbed up. The pull cord dangled in front of him, swaying lightly, though no window was open. He pulled it. The square of ceiling dropped down, releasing a faint breath of cold air and dust. The wooden ladder unfolded with a dry groan. "Don't," Emma said from behind him. She had just come home for lunch, watching nervously from the stairs. "I just want to see what's up there," Daniel said. "If it's a raccoon or something, we should know." He climbed carefully, holding his phone light in one hand. The air grew colder as his head crossed into the dark square above. The attic was smaller than he expected, unfinished. Wooden beams everywhere, a thin layer of insulation, and dust thick as snow. He scanned the flashlight slowly. Boxes, old, broken furniture, cobwebs, and then something strange. At the far end of the attic floor, near the beams, there were footprints, bare feet in the dust, small, like a woman's or a child's. "Emma," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Someone's been up here." She didn't answer. He climbed down quickly, heart racing. When he looked back up, just before closing the hatch, he thought he saw movement. A flicker of shadow near the beams, but when he blinked, it was gone. That night, Daniel sat at the kitchen table with his laptop. "We're setting up cameras," he said firmly. Emma frowned. "You're serious about this?" "Yes. If it's an animal, we'll catch it. If it's something else..." He didn't finish. After dinner, he installed 2 small security cameras he'd ordered months ago for work, one in the living room facing the stairs, and one in the hallway pointing toward the attic door. Emma helped. Reluctantly, they checked the feeds on Daniel's laptop. Clear picture, night vision on. Feels weird, Emma said. Like we're spying on ourselves. Maybe, Daniel said. But I need to know what's happening. Nothing happened the first night. The footage showed only dust particles floating in the dark and faint reflections of light. But on the second night, the living room camera caught something. At exactly 3:14 a.m., the front door rattled. The handle twisted, once, twice, then stopped. 2 minutes later, the motion sensor light flickered on, just for a moment, though nothing moved in frame. Then, faintly from the upstairs feed came a whisper. Not words, just breathing. Daniel played it back 3 times before Emma walked into the room. "You're up early," she said, yawning. He turned the laptop toward her. "Watch," her face paled. "That's not the house settling, Dan." He nodded slowly. "I know." From that night onward, sleep became difficult. Emma started waking up around 3 a.m. without reason. Sometimes she'd find Daniel sitting on the edge of the bed staring toward the hallway, whispering, "Did you hear that?" Other nights she'd hear him talking quietly. To himself, she thought, in the living room. When she asked what he was doing, he said, "Checking the feed." The recordings became an obsession. He started saving clips, labeling them with timestamps. 3:11, sound of movement above bed. 3:14, door handle twist. 3:17, faint voice. Most of the time, the footage showed nothing but still shadows. But occasionally, just occasionally, something moved. A blur in the corner. A door closing slowly. Once, a reflection of a shape standing by the stairs. Though when Daniel ran the clip again, it was gone. One afternoon, Emma met their next-door neighbor while watering plants. An older woman in her 70s holding a basket of folded laundry. "You must be the new couple," the woman said with a soft smile. "I'm Mrs. Bell from next door." Emma smiled back. "Hi, we've been here a couple of weeks," Mrs. Bell hesitated. "You're in the Holloway house, right?" "Yes, that's the one." The woman's smile faded a little. That house has been empty for a while." "Oh? Mr. Holloway said people rented it before." The woman looked uncomfortable. "Yes, but they never stayed long. Why not?" Mrs. Bell shifted the laundry basket. "Old houses have memories. I wouldn't worry too much. Just make sure you keep the attic shut." Before Emma could ask more, Mrs. Bell smiled again and walked away. That night, Emma told Daniel. "She said people didn't stay long," Emma whispered. "And she told me to keep the attic shut." Daniel laughed uneasily. "Yeah, well, I'm not exactly planning to open it again." But they both looked up at the ceiling that night before bed, at that square outline above the hallway, and neither of them laughed again. 2 nights later, Daniel was woken by a knock, not at the door. From the ceiling, 3 slow knocks, evenly spaced. He turned on the light. Emma stirred, confused. "Dan? What's—" The knocks came again, louder. He grabbed his phone and started recording. The sound stopped instantly. For almost a full minute, the silence was complete. Then a whisper, so faint he almost missed it. It came from directly above them. "Emma." Emma's breath caught. "Did you—" He grabbed her hand. "Don't move," the whisper came again. "Emma." The voice sounded like Daniel's. The next morning, Daniel played back the phone video. At first, there was only static, then the sound of the knocks. But when he turned up the volume and listened to the whisper again, he realized something terrifying. It wasn't his voice calling Emma's name. It was someone imitating him. By the end of that week, the house began to smell faintly of something burnt. Not strong, but sour, metallic like old iron. Emma cleaned every corner, even sprayed air freshener, but the smell kept returning, mostly near the stairs and hallway. One night, she found Daniel sitting on the floor with his laptop, scrubbing through hours of footage. "Dan," she said softly, "this isn't healthy. We need to stop." He didn't look up. "Something's here. Or maybe it's just in your head." He finally looked at her, eyes red from sleepless nights. "If it was in my head, you wouldn't hear it too." She didn't answer. At 3:09 a.m., the living room camera caught the attic hatch slowly opening. No one touched it. No wind, no movement in the house. The string dangled in the air for a full minute, swaying slightly, then stilled. At 3:11, the upstairs hallway light flickered on, by itself. Then the feed went black. The next morning, when Daniel woke up and checked the ceiling, the hatch was open again. This time, he didn't close it. He only stared up, heart racing, until Emma whispered from behind him, "Daniel, what if it doesn't want it closed anymore?" For 3 days, the attic hatch stayed open. Daniel couldn't bring himself to close it again. He would stand in the hallway at random hours, staring up into that square of blackness, half expecting something to look back down. Emma started keeping the bedroom door closed at night. "It feels like it's watching," she whispered once. Daniel didn't argue. He felt it too. The nights stretched longer. The air in the house grew heavier, colder. At 3 a.m., the creaks began again, soft at first, then sharper, like impatient footsteps. By morning, dust from the attic had fallen onto the hallway floor, and in that dust were faint marks, small oval shapes, like bare toes. Daniel's friend Aaron came by one afternoon. He was loud, easygoing, the type who laughed at everything. When Daniel told him about the noises and the video, Aaron smirked. "You've been watching too many ghost shows," he said. "Let's go up there. I'll prove it's nothing." Daniel didn't want to, but Aaron was already pulling the ladder down. The hatch opened with its usual sigh of cold air. Aaron climbed first, holding his phone light. "See? Nothing up." He stopped. Daniel waited. "What?" Aaron's voice came back flat, quiet. "Did you put these up here?" "Put what?" "Pictures. There's a bunch of pictures stuck to the beam." Daniel climbed a few steps and looked. On one wooden beam, nailed roughly in a row, were photographs. Old, yellowed, curling at the edges. They showed people, families, couples, a child holding a balloon, all smiling. Except someone had scratched lines through every face. Aaron swallowed hard. "That's sick. Who'd keep this stuff up here?" Daniel whispered. "They weren't there before." Aaron glanced at him. "How would you know?" "Because I checked. The first time I came up here, there were only footprints." Aaron tried to laugh, but the sound died quickly. "Let's get down." When they reached the hallway, Daniel looked at the photos again on his phone screen. The last photo in the row had looked recent, a man and woman standing on a porch. The woman's face had been scratched out, but Daniel swore the man looked familiar. When he zoomed in, he froze. It was him. That night, Daniel barely slept. At 3:07 a.m., the power went out for 10 seconds. When the lights came back, the cameras restarted automatically, all except the one in the hallway. It stayed dark for over an hour. When Daniel checked the footage the next morning, the hallway feed flickered back on at 4:16 a.m., just long enough to show a shape standing beneath the attic door. It wasn't clear, a dark outline facing the bedroom. Then it tilted its head, slightly, almost curious, before the feed cut again. Daniel paused the video, replayed that half second over and over. The thing's face never came into focus, but one detail made his stomach twist. The shape's head seemed to tilt the same way he did when thinking. Emma couldn't take it anymore. "I can't live like this," she said one morning, her voice trembling. "Every night you're awake, filming walls, checking cameras. We don't talk. We don't sleep." Daniel looked up from the laptop. "You've seen the footage, Em. Tell me that's normal." "I don't know what's normal anymore," she shouted. "But this obsession, it's turning you into a stranger." He wanted to argue, but he couldn't. In the corner of the room, the camera's tiny green light blinked once. They both saw it. Neither spoke. Later that day, Daniel went upstairs to unplug the camera. When he reached the hallway, he stopped dead. A trail of footprints, small, bare, dusty, led from the attic ladder down the hallway and into their bedroom. At the doorway, the prints stopped. He followed them slowly, his breath catching. The last print was pressed onto the bedsheet near Emma's pillow. Emma refused to stay another night. They booked a motel nearby and began packing quickly. Daniel insisted on checking the camera feeds one last time before leaving. He downloaded the last night's footage, saved to the hard drive automatically. While Emma waited by the door, he clicked on the file labeled 3:11 a.m. hallway. At first, the frame was empty. Then came movement. Something crawling halfway down the attic ladder, stopping, turning its head toward the camera. The face was visible only for a moment, but it looked disturbingly human, pale, expressionless, the mouth slightly open as if whispering. Then a voice filled the speakers. Not from the figure, but from somewhere near the camera itself. "Don't go!" Emma's hand shook as she closed the laptop. "We're leaving, now." They drove out in silence. The motel room smelled of detergent and old coffee. For the first time in weeks, Emma slept soundly. Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every sound in his head. At 3:11 a.m., his phone vibrated on the nightstand. A notification from the home camera app. Motion detected. Living room, 3:11 a.m. His heart pounded. Another notification followed. Motion detected. Hallway, 3 a.m., then a third. Camera disabled. Attic feed offline. He stared at the screen, unable to breathe. Finally, one last message appeared. New user logged in from this device. The reflection in the dark phone screen showed him holding the phone. But behind his reflection, something else was standing. By morning, Emma wanted to go back to collect the rest of their belongings. Daniel didn't want to, but he couldn't explain why. When they reached the house, the front door was already open. The living room camera lay on the floor, lens cracked. The attic ladder was down again, Emma whispered. "Daniel." "Let's go." But Daniel stepped forward slowly, as if pulled by something unseen. He could hear faint breathing coming from above, calm, steady, almost matching his own. He whispered back, "Who are you?" A pause, then softly, a whisper from the darkness. "You know me." They didn't talk on the drive back from the house. Emma stared out the window, silent tears running down her face. Daniel kept his hands tight on the steering wheel, his eyes fixed on the road, though he could barely see. Neither of them mentioned the voice. The motel felt colder that night. The heater rattled softly. The air smelled like dust and metal. Emma refused to unpack. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding her phone like a weapon. Daniel tried to rest. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw that open attic and heard the whisper, "You know me." The next morning, Daniel called Mr. Holloway again. It took 3 tries before the landlord picked up. "Mr. Holloway, it's Daniel Collins. We need to talk about the house." There was a pause. "Yes, you didn't tell us there were things in the attic. Pictures, old things. And someone's been in there." Holloway sighed. "You're not the first tenants to say that. Every couple who's lived there complains about noises. One even said they saw themselves on the stairs." Daniel froze. "Saw themselves?" "Yeah," Holloway said quietly. "They moved out the next day. I had an inspector go in. He found nothing. No animals, no squatters, nothing." Daniel's voice shook. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because no one ever gets hurt," Holloway said. "They just leave." "Maybe they don't stay long enough to get hurt," Daniel whispered. That night at the motel, Daniel's phone buzzed again. Another motion alert, and from inside the house. He opened the live feed. The picture was black for a moment, then flickered. The hallway camera had somehow come back online. For a few seconds, the frame showed nothing but the empty hall, the attic ladder still down. Then a figure stepped into view. Daniel's stomach turned. It was him. Same clothes, same height, same way of standing. The head slightly tilted. The figure looked straight into the camera and whispered, "You left the door open." Then the feed went dark. Daniel dropped the phone. His hands were shaking. "Emma," he said, "it's me." "It looks like me." She grabbed the phone. The screen was blank now. "You're exhausted." "You're seeing things," she said. "No, Em." It spoke. "It said I left the door open." "Then close it," she snapped, her voice trembling. "Whatever this is, end it." "We're not going back there." Daniel wanted to agree, but something in him twisted. A cold, strange curiosity. If that thing looked exactly like him, what else could it do? Later that night, Daniel went to wash his face. The bathroom mirror was streaked with moisture, but when he wiped it clear, his reflection didn't move right. For a split second, the face in the glass smiled after he stopped. He stepped back, heart pounding. Then the reflection tilted its head. The same tilt, the same slow motion. He whispered, "What are you?" The reflection's lips moved. It didn't make a sound, but Daniel could read the words clearly. "I'm you." He stumbled out of the bathroom, gasping. Emma sat up, alarmed. "What happened?" He couldn't answer. 2 days passed. They barely slept. Emma wanted to find another place. Daniel agreed, but insisted on going back one last time to retrieve the laptop and the hard drive with the recordings. 10 minutes, he said. "We go in, grab everything, leave." She hesitated but finally nodded. They drove to the house in daylight. The street was empty, the sky dull gray. When they stepped inside, the air was freezing, colder than outside. The living room camera still lay broken. Daniel went upstairs quickly. The hallway was darker than he remembered. The attic hatch hung wide open. He looked down. The dust on the floor was disturbed. Footprints again, leading in both directions like someone pacing. Dan. "Hurry," Emma whispered. He found the laptop in the bedroom, closed it under his arm, and turned to leave. Then he froze. A figure stood at the end of the hallway. Same build. Same clothes, same face. It was smiling. "Emma," he whispered. "Don't look," but she did. And she screamed. They didn't talk on the drive back from the house. Emma stared out the window, silent tears running down her face. Daniel kept his hands tight on the steering wheel, his eyes fixed on the road, though he could barely see. Neither of them mentioned the voice. The motel felt colder that night. The heater rattled softly. The air smelled like dust and metal. Emma refused to unpack. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding her phone like a weapon. Daniel tried to rest, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw that open attic and heard the whisper, "You know me." The call the next morning, Daniel called Mr. Holloway again. It took 3 tries before the landlord picked up. "Mr. Holloway, it's Daniel Collins. We need to talk about the house." There was a pause. "Yes? You didn't tell us there were things in the attic?" "Pictures, old things, and someone's been in there." Holloway sighed. "You're not the first tenants to say that. Every couple who's lived there complains about noises. One even said they saw themselves on the stairs." Daniel froze. "Saw themselves?" "Yeah," Holloway said quietly. "They moved out the next day. I had an inspector go in. He found nothing. No animals, no squatters, nothing." Daniel's voice shook. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because no one ever gets hurt," Holloway said. "They just leave." "Maybe they don't stay long enough to get hurt," Daniel whispered. The video on the phone. That night at the motel, Daniel's phone buzzed again. Another motion alert from inside the house. He opened the live feed. The picture was black for a moment, then flickered. The hallway camera had somehow come back online. For a few seconds, the frame showed nothing but the empty hall, the attic ladder still down. Then a figure stepped into view. Daniel's stomach turned. It was him. Same clothes, same height, same way of standing. The head slightly tilted. The figure looked straight into the camera and whispered, "You left the door open." Then the feed went dark. The fractured Daniel dropped the phone. His hands were shaking. "Emma," he said. "It's me." "It looks like me." She grabbed the phone. The screen was blank now. "You're exhausted. You're seeing things," she said. "No, Em." It spoke. It said I left the door open. "Then close it," she snapped, her voice trembling. "Whatever this is, end it. We're not going back there." Daniel wanted to agree, but something in him twisted. A cold, strange curiosity. If that thing looked exactly like him, what else could it do? The reflection later that night, Daniel went to wash his face. The bathroom mirror was streaked with moisture, but when he wiped it clear, his reflection didn't move right. For a split second, the face in the glass smiled after he stopped. He stepped back, heart pounding. Then the reflection tilted its head. The same tilt, the same slow motion. He whispered, "What are you?" The reflection's lips moved. It didn't make a sound, but Daniel could read the words clearly. "I'm you." He stumbled out of the bathroom, gasping. Emma sat up, alarmed. "What happened?" He couldn't answer. The return to Maple Street 2 days passed. They barely slept. Emma wanted to find another place. Daniel agreed, but insisted on going back one last time to retrieve the laptop and the hard drive with the recordings. 10 minutes, he said. "We go in, grab everything, leave." She hesitated, but finally nodded. They drove to the house in daylight. The street was empty, the sky dull gray. When they stepped inside, the air was freezing, colder than outside. The living room camera still lay broken. Daniel went upstairs quickly. The hallway was darker than he remembered. The attic hatch hung wide open. He looked down. The dust on the floor was disturbed. Footprints again, leading in both directions, like someone pacing. Dan. "Hurry," Emma whispered. He found the laptop in the bedroom, closed it under his arm, and turned to leave. Then he froze. A figure stood at the end of the hallway. Same build. Same clothes, same face. It was smiling. "Emma," he whispered. Don't look, but she did. And she screamed. The copy speaks. The figure took a slow step forward. Its voice was calm, almost friendly. You came back. Daniel raised his phone, the flashlight trembling. Stay back! You shouldn't have left, it said. You're part of this now. Emma pulled Daniel's arm. Run! They bolted down the stairs. The front door slammed shut before they reached it, not locked, but as if held by invisible force. The air thickened, humming low like a heartbeat in the walls. Daniel slammed his shoulder against the door. It flew open suddenly, throwing them both into daylight. They didn't stop running until they reached the car. Aftermath. At the motel, Daniel deleted the app from his phone. He smashed the cameras one by one, but that night, as he scrolled through the gallery, a new video appeared automatically in his camera roll. It was only 6 seconds long. A shot of their motel room, recorded from the corner near the ceiling. The frame showed Daniel asleep, Emma beside him, and in the reflection of the window, someone else stood, the same face, the same tilt of the head, watching. Emma was the first to notice it. The curtains in the motel room moved when the window was shut. Only slightly, a small sway, like a breath. She told herself it was air from the vent, but the vent was off. Daniel hadn't been the same since they left Maple Street. He barely spoke. He sat by the table, laptop open, replaying old clips again and again. Daniel, she said one morning, you need to stop watching those. He didn't answer. When she looked at the screen, her stomach tightened. It was the 6-second motel clip again, the one that showed them sleeping, the reflection, the figure. Daniel whispered, how did it film us here? We don't have cameras anymore. Emma didn't know, but she couldn't deny what she saw. The reflection in the window looked just like Daniel, but it was smiling, wide and wrong. The scratches 2 nights later, they found long scratches on the inside of the motel door. 3 deep marks, perfectly even. Emma asked the front desk if someone had been in their room. The clerk checked the log. No entries after you checked in, he said. Maybe you had a pet. They didn't have one. That night, the heater clicked off by itself. The room turned cold. At 3:11 a.m., Daniel's phone vibrated on the nightstand. Unknown number. Look outside. He stared at the message, frozen. Outside, through the thin curtain, a figure stood in the parking lot, motionless. It looked like him again. The next morning, Emma booked a new place, a friend's spare apartment across town. We're not safe here, she said. Whatever it is, it keeps finding us. They packed quickly. But when they reached the car, Daniel stopped. The side mirror reflected the parking lot, and in the mirror's surface, his own face stared back, expression blank. Only he wasn't moving. He touched his cheek. The reflection didn't copy him. Then it slowly raised its hand, pressing its palm flat against the inside of the mirror, as if trapped beneath the glass. Daniel stumbled back. Emma, it's me. It's... The mirror cracked down the center. The new apartment. The new apartment was smaller, brighter, cleaner. Emma hoped the sunlight would make it feel safer. For 2 nights, nothing happened. They began to talk again, eat together, even laugh a little. On the 3rd night, Daniel found a single footprint on the hallway floor, small, bare, dusty. Impossible. He cleaned it up and didn't tell Emma. But the next morning, she noticed anyway. You saw it too, she said quietly. It's not over, is it? Daniel shook his head. It followed us. The voices. The first voice came through the apartment's intercom, the small box by the door that buzzed when someone rang. At exactly 3:11 a.m., it crackled to life. Emma, the voice whispered. Let me in, she froze. It sounded like Daniel, but he was asleep beside her. The intercom clicked again. Please, I'm cold. Emma shook Daniel awake. He looked at the box, pale. Don't answer. The voice spoke one last time, soft, almost kind. You left me in the dark. Then the line went dead. The tape Daniel found something in his laptop's files he didn't remember recording. A folder named 1111. Inside were short clips, all black at first, then flickering images of their old house. One showed the attic hatch. Another showed the living room, empty. The last one made his chest tighten. It showed him sitting at his work desk, the exact position he was in now, only filmed from behind. In the clip, The Daniel at the desk turned slightly toward the camera, smiled, and whispered, "Almost done." Then the file ended. Emma's fear. Emma began seeing shadows move in reflections. In the TV screen, in the dark oven door, even in her phone when it went black. Sometimes the shadows looked like Daniel. Other times, like her, she tried to film it, but nothing showed on playback. Only once did something appear, a frame of her sleeping, and in the background a figure standing by the window, its head tilted to the side. The visit on, the fifth night. There was a knock at the apartment door. 3 slow knocks. Emma checked the peephole. No one. Then behind her, Daniel said softly, "Emma, who is it?" She turned and saw him standing at the other end of the hallway, which meant the voice behind her wasn't his. The door handle began to turn. The door. Daniel grabbed her hand. "Don't open it!" The handle kept twisting, metal scraping metal, then stopped. A whisper came from the other side. "You can't lock out what's already inside." Emma screamed and backed away. The lights flickered, then steadied. When they dared to look again, the door was slightly open, just an inch. The mirror. They barely slept. In the morning, Emma stood in front of the bathroom mirror. Her reflection looked normal at first, then it blinked, and didn't open its eyes again. Instead, it smiled. She dropped the toothbrush and ran. Daniel rushed in, but when he looked, his reflection was still. Only when he stepped closer did the reflection start to tilt its head. The realization. That night, Daniel pieced everything together. "It's not the house," he said quietly. "It's us. It copied us somehow, from the recordings, from the reflections. Every time we look, every time we film, it learns more." Emma whispered, "Then what happens when it learns everything?" He didn't answer. Outside, the wind howled against the window, but it sounded almost like breathing. The last clip at 3:11 a.m., Daniel's laptop camera light turned on by itself. He closed the lid quickly. A second later, his phone buzzed. New video saved. Front camera. He opened it with shaking hands. The video showed their apartment bedroom, filmed from the ceiling corner as if from an unseen camera. In the frame, he saw himself and Emma sleeping. Then slowly, a dark figure stepped into view and leaned over the bed. The figure looked like both of them, faces blended, smiling too wide. The morning after, the sun came up gray and dull, but neither of them felt daylight. Daniel sat at the kitchen table staring at the turned-off laptop. Emma was by the window, holding her phone, scrolling through nothing. The air felt heavy, like the room itself was holding its breath. Finally, Daniel said, "We can't stay here." Emma nodded slowly. "Then where?" He didn't answer because deep down he knew there was nowhere left to go. The recording at noon, Daniel tried to delete every file. He opened the laptop, plugged in the hard drive, and started erasing the clips one by one. But the screen froze halfway through. A message appeared, white text on black. "You can't delete yourself." He tried to shut it down, but the cursor moved on its own. The files began restoring, each video replaying automatically. Emma came running when she heard the sound. Their own voices from old clips, overlapping, whispering nonsense. The speakers hissed like wind through a keyhole. "Daniel," she whispered, "turn it off. I can't." The screen flickered, showing their bedroom. Then the image changed. The motel, the attic, the apartment, every place they had lived, one after another, as if something was watching through all of them at once. The third copy. On the fourth clip, a new figure appeared. It wasn't Daniel, and it wasn't Emma. It was something in between, a mixture of both faces, smooth and wrong. It stood in the middle of the frame and smiled directly into the camera. "You made me," it said softly. Then the screen went black. The smell of dust that night. They slept with the lights on. At 3:11 a.m., the lights went out. Emma woke first. The air smelled like the old house. Dust, wood, and something faintly burnt. She turned her head and froze. In the dark, Daniel's side of the bed was empty. "Daniel?" No answer. She got up, calling his name softly. Then she saw it. A faint glow coming from the living room. The returned Daniel was sitting on the floor, laptop open again. The camera light was on. On the screen, Emma saw her own face. Not live, but already recorded. She was standing exactly as she was now, in the doorway, watching him. "Daniel," she whispered. "Why are you filming me?" He didn't look up. "It's not me," she stared, confused. "What do you mean?" He pointed to the laptop. "I haven't opened the camera." It turned on by itself. Then, from the speaker, came a whisper, Emma's own voice. "Come closer." The final minute. The next morning, their neighbor, Mrs. Grant, knocked on the apartment door. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. When the police came, the door was locked from the inside. Inside the small apartment, everything was neat. No struggle, no sign of break-in. Only the laptop sat open on the floor. The screen showed a paused video, time-stamped 3:11 a.m. Two people stood in the middle of the frame, Daniel and Emma, holding hands. They turned to the camera and smiled. Then both figures stepped backward until they disappeared into the shadows. The video kept running for another minute, showing only the empty room. Then, very faintly, a whisper came through the speaker. "Your turn." Epilogue: the landlord of Maple Street sold the old house a few months later. The new couple who moved in found a cardboard box in the attic. Inside was a small security camera, a USB drive, and a note that read, "Do not record yourself." They threw the note away. That night, their phone buzzed at exactly 3:11 a.m., motion detected. Living room, the end.